Okay, thanks, Kristen. Welcome, council residents, staff, delegates, and Emily. She's our county planner. Members of the public, welcome to our planning meeting for Tuesday, April the 1st, 2025, and we're being streamed live. And I'd just like to remind everyone not to talk in the audience because it's very distracting to staff, if you don't mind. So thank you. I'll call the meeting to order at 5:30 with the land acknowledgement. We're meeting today on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. We acknowledge our shared obligation to respect, honor, and sustain these lands and the natural resources contained within. We honor their cultures and celebrate their commitment to this land. We would also like to acknowledge the Mohawk and Algonquin nations whose traditional and unceded territory we are gathered upon today. Hastings County is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. Next on the agenda, I need a motion that the agenda of the planning meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Marmorant Lake for Tuesday, April the 1st, 2025 be approved as presented. Can I have a mover? Ron. Second, Eric. Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor? That's carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Next, I need a motion that the foregoing minutes of the planning meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Marmorant Lake held Tuesday, February the 18th, 2025 be approved as presented. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Mike and Ron, any discussion on those minutes? All in favor? That's carried. Next, it's public meetings. This is the time set aside to permit anyone in attendance to speak in favor or in opposition to the zoning amendments. Public input will be received by council. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the municipal council for the municipality of Marmorant Lake to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the municipality of Marmorant Lake before the bylaws passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make a written submission to the municipal council for the municipality of Marmorant Lake before the bylaws passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So one of the items for the public meeting is a proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 354 Marble Point Road, Marmorant Lake. And I'm going to ask Emily to speak to that. Please.
So through you, Madam Chair, good evening, members of council and members of the public. I'm here today to review the application for rezoning for 354 Marble Point Road, and it is presently zoned marginal agricultural zone. The applicant proposes to rezone the property to recreational resort commercial exception number 5, short formed as RRC 5 zone, and the proposed zoning bylaw amendment would permit only the following uses: a tourist establishment for 3 housekeeping cottages in the form of geodesic domes with a rear yard setback of 6.75 meters or 22.15 feet, an interior yard setback of 4.1 meters or 13.5 feet, an outdoor event space for up to 100 people, an amount that I should note is inclusive of any overnight guests on the property. So it's not 100 people in addition to people already on the property. Private park uses and existing uses, including an existing single detached dwelling, existing livestock facilities, and an existing sleeping cabin, also known as a bunkie, and accessory uses to the above. And finally, parking will be provided in accordance with section 5.31 of the zoning bylaw, and 1 parking space will be provided for each of the housekeeping cottages. So I provided you a detailed planning report that was part of the agenda, and on desk, I provided an addendum that reviews the public comments received on the application. I should note that this application represents one of two parts of the planning process to establish the proposed recreational use. This application deals with the zoning, which is the land use of the property. And this is the only item that would be approved tonight if this application is approved. The second portion of the application is site plan control, which is a process that reviews the function and internal working of the property. So that is coming at a later date, and that is not a public process, that is an internal staff process. So presently, staff are supportive of the rezoning application, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Emily. I'll just read here what the subject of the zoning bylaw amendment is. The subject lands are presently zoned marginal agricultural zone. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the entirety of the property from the marginal agricultural zone to the resort recreational commercial exception number 5 zone to permit the following uses. A tourist establishment, including housekeeping cottages in the form of geodesic domes with a rear yard setback of 6.75 meters or 22.15 feet, and an interior yard setback of 4.1 meters, which is 13.5 feet. Second outdoor event space for up to 100 people, including any overnight guests of the property. Private park uses, including an existing single detached dwelling, existing livestock facilities, and an existing sleeping cabin. One parking space will be for each housekeeping cottage and will otherwise be provided in accordance with the zoning bylaw section 5.31. And we have a number of pieces of correspondence, and I'll let Kristen speak to that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have received 4 pieces of correspondence regarding this application through email, which were included in your agenda packages. We have since received 1 more written comment through email after the publication of the agenda. I'm just wondering, are Greg and Lori Prevost here? Do you intend to speak? Okay, would you like me to read your email into the public record or just speak on your own behalf? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And we do have one resident participating over Zoom. So if it would be all right with you, Madam Mayor, we could start with him and then invite those present here to come forward.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Miss-
Robert, would you like
Yes.
to speak? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. My wife and I bought our cottage on Cove Road over 37 years ago, and we moved here permanently upon retirement 17 years ago. It sits within 100 feet of the property line of the Marmor Retreat and within 150 feet of the first dome that was constructed recently. There are in excess of 25 homes or cottages in direct view of the Marmor Retreat. It occupies 1/2 of our bay. Many are directly across our somewhat, can I say, tiny bay, and many more are within reasonable earshot of the retreat. When Brendan, the new owner, purchased the property, the main house almost immediately became a short-term rental and a wedding venue. Almost every weekend, there were large weddings and gatherings that produced very disruptive noise and loud music, often accompanied by an outdoor disc jockey. The noise would continue into the wee hours of the night. It was very difficult to go to bed much before midnight or 1 o'clock. I am quite sure that I am correct in saying that the landlord, Marmor Retreat, supplied the sound system for these functions. We personally found it very disruptive and disrespectful. The noise level has reduced somewhat in recent months since the construction of the first dome started, but I personally have very little confidence that that will remain that way given the increased number of the domes and the permission for 100-person capacity requested in the rezoning request. I, like most, came to the area of Crow Lake for the quiet nature of of waterfront living. Upon meeting Brendan for the first time last year, I told him straight up that he has single-handedly destroyed the peaceful nature of our neighborhood. I do not regret that statement. For the noise factor alone, I cannot support approval of the rezoning request. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, I know there's a number of you probably want to speak. Who would like to come up first? Yeah, and just turn the microphone on there, sir. And if, just I'll ask you, to give your presentation, and then if you'll sign the sheet just with, you've already done that? Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. I'd just like to say that, Robert, you're absolutely right. I took a petition around and got quite a few signatures. I have 27, I think. Right now, there's just some more added by the people that are here. And virtually all of them are complaining about the noise. And we have our doubts about whether the sanitary conditions are going to be properly met. We think that it's going to be an extra load on the municipal services like police, ambulance, and fire. Excuse me. And we would like to see the request for change of use to be turned down and the place put back to its proper, the way it was, rural and quiet. We bought in here 25 years ago for the quiet. We've enjoyed the quiet. And now we're in danger of losing that. And we are very upset about it and would like to see the whole thing put back to the way it was. Okay, I'd leave these signatures with you if you wish. I can take you around to show you where they were signed, and we have addresses and dates.
Thank you. If you could just provide those to the clerk. And you said you put your name and address
Yeah.
on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor or opposed? Please come forward. Now I'll ask you to sign the sheet when you're finished your hearing.
All right, my name is Mary Hubbard. I live at 149 Sauna Road. I'm directly across from the Marmor Retreat. I say ditto to everything that's been said already. The noise factor is very extreme and of concern. I have here an email from 2 other residents near me. As property owners on McColl Road, owning 2 properties, my partner and I would like to have our voices heard as we cannot be there tonight due to the power outage and watching grandchildren. We both are against this proposal and would like it to be put on record that Robert Eselmont and Nick Zotkin are against this proposal. And if it is a vote based on property, we have both 143 and 151 McColl Road as our properties. Please put us down for 4 votes to each if that is doable. And thank you so much. I wish I was able to attend, but unfortunately due to the storm, that's not possible. Myself and my partner, Ann Richardson, are not supporting the proposal for rezoning. We understand that Brendan has been operating his property as a corporate event and wedding venue for the last couple of years without proper zoning. We're not too sure how that was possible. We know that he has events upcoming and he has not had the proper zoning, and we're wondering how he can continue to book these events. One of our questions is, has the Conservation Authority had an environmental assessment of the property? And if so, what were the results of that? I find it amazing that such a large venue and could be able to operate that close to the water and in that area. And my other concern is the waste and septic. Again, that's another very large concern that We want you to be aware of all the problems we've had in the past with this illegal business, late night noises, excessive daytime noise, people making speeches with microphones and speakers. Brendan said he is supplying the speakers for events to use, but any speaker is too loud. The owner should be on site at all times to monitor excessive noise, etc., not 2 hours away or even 15 minutes away. By the time they get everything under control, it's way too late. The inconvenience has already occurred. Brendan has said that he's going to be living on site and that he'll be able to monitor these things in the future, but he will not give a specific date. So that's kind of up in the air. We are the ones suffering for the inconvenience, yet he is the one making the profit. How is that considered fair to all? And he's not actually bringing any income to Marmora. As any event venue, all refreshments are made by the host, and it's unlikely that they're going to do their shopping for the event in Marmora. It's also unlikely that the event guests are going to be leaving their premises to venture into the Marmora and surrounding areas. So those are my concerns. And I hope you take this seriously, that we're not interested in having this rezone.
Thank you, Mary. Can you make sure you just sign that sheet, please? Mary, could you sign oh, did you sign it already? Okay, thank you. Come ahead, Sue.
Mayor and Council, good evening. April Fool's Day, but what the heck? My name is Susan Connolly. I live at 16 Tipperary Court, which may seem a little bit off kilter, but believe me, with the noise that are made less than 200 meters away from me, I can hear when these things are going on. This is my letter, which I'd like to read to you. I write in opposition to this rezoning request at 354 Marble Point Road. This property is easily identified by the business sign Marmora Retreat, hanging on the side of the road, and the Marmora Retreat label on the mailbox. On the assumption that this is not an example of the old saying, it is easier to beg forgiveness than ask permission, I will continue with my reasoning for a resounding no to this request. Marble Point Road is a main access route for many Marmora and Lake residents, both permanent and seasonal. Besides driveways, there are at least 4 single-lane roads which provide access for numerous other residences to Marble Point. Marmora Retreat's business access is immediately adjacent to speed changes, and it's on a hill, and I'm now going to add it's on a little bit of a curve too, which can be blind if you're walking the road. The thought of 100+ vehicles using this, as well as the regular traffic, seems rather overwhelming. Additionally, I've asked about the water, sewer, and sanitation requirements. People are already throwing all kinds of trash alongside the road. There are already facilities to accommodate visitors, their celebrations, and introductions to the area. Marmora and Lake needs to recognize that rules and regulations are needed to be updated to keep this community happy and healthy for the benefit of residents who pay taxes for the peace and tranquility of the rural lifestyle. I would like to ask, when was the last safety count done on Marble Point Road? You know, where they put the line across, and as you drive over it, it dings on a counter somewhere? I mean, if you increase that traffic by 100+ people for however many celebrations that he chooses to have, that's going to add an awful lot of load to Marble Point Road, which was just repaved recently and is rather narrow by times. It is a road that a lot of people walk every day. Ladies with strollers and 1 or 2 kids on bicycles with them. And if people come along that road right where the speed changes to 30, but they don't see it in time, and his access is right there, this can become a mess in a heck of a hurry. So I would like to request that this rezoning application be denied. And in fact, that land belonged to my great-grandparents. a few years back, well, a lot years back. But it was a farm, it was a working farm. As it stands now, he's got scads of wild turkeys, he's got deer, he's got all kinds of other stuff. Are these gonna be around for all the rest of us to enjoy? When he gets 100+ people and the music going boomity, 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 boomity all night long? I doubt it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sue. Does anyone else wish to speak? Can you just adjust that microphone in front of you there? It got bent over there. Perfect. And we can hear you better.
Hello, I'm Colleen Doyle, and this is my husband, Terry Doyle. I'm very nervous, I'll admit it.
No
Um,
need to be nervous. It's a public meeting and you have every right to speak. So
We own the property adjacent to the Marmor Retreat along McKinnon Lane. And our concerns are, as talked about, the noise levels. Our property has a woods between our home and their farmhouse. And yet we can clearly hear the bass going all evening, every weekend. I think we've been very patient for the last 4 years, not really bringing it up, but I'm really concerned that with 100 more people, that this is going to get louder and the area is going to get, it's going to become more of a playground. We've seen and we've heard how they have all kinds of games going on and things. And we're concerned that our lovely area is just going to be wrecked. We're also concerned about the septic. We think it should have some kind of a, what were you going to say? Perhaps maybe being checked, I don't know, but it's so close to the river. I'm just afraid that something will flow into the river and maybe destroy our beautiful habitat. The other side of the coin is that Brendan is not going to be able to control who brings what to the property if he's not here. And he says he has kayaks and he has canoes, but I mean, people bring sea-doos. And we've seen it on the river where they are absolutely crazy on the river, jumping over wakes and turning circles and then scooting back into the cove. So for that reason, we're really opposing this zoning bylaw. We would like it kept as marginal farmland.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hello. Oh, sorry. My name is Thomas Neal. These are actually my cousins. We are McGraths on my mom's side. It's actually McGraths Bay. It is McGraths Road legally, not Marble Point Road. Our grandfather built it. As we can attest, Susan can probably give you the history. I own a property at 425 Marble Point and also a vacant lot right across that abuts to the piece of land that Brendan severed. We hear the noise. We weren't sure what it was. We thought, okay, it's just another cottage, but it's consistent. The reason I mentioned the lot is Rick Deering, I wanted to grow the grass a little longer, put some trees in like all the rural residential properties along Marble Point, many. And I was hounded to cut the lawn. So I had to cut the grass. And then I find out that other people are allowed to disobey the bylaws and have an Airbnb, which do you hand out business license? I know you can't ask questions, but you hand out business license to Airbnbs. It's an Airbnb, a glorified Airbnb. It's not a retreat, as you say, because you know, you can sit there and talk about nature, but I don't know how all that's going to work. In any event, I think that the noise, the traffic, that road, I run on that road quite a bit. And you have to be really, really careful, and there's going to get someone get killed. I have seen cars turn in to that driveway, and I understand it's going to be widened, but it's a very dangerous spot. Personally, I think that this is a roast to put in something bigger. I happen, Brendan works for a developer. I think that this is, give an inch, take another few feet, right? I believe that we're just going to be here in another 2 years. I'm not sure about how much employment Marmora Retreat brings in, but I can, tell you that I'm sure it's not enough for the council to stick their necks out and back something that I think will backfire. So I am in real opposition to this. And I really believe that the council should make the smart decision with so many taxpayers. I think I pay more for my cottage than he does for this property that is a business. So maybe Marmora, if you're going hand it to them, get the tax dollars for it, because I don't think that the taxes are quite what they should be. Anyways, I appreciate what you're doing, and I know it's a thankless job. So, thank you.
Thank you. Can you sign, please? Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Come forward, please.
Good evening, Mayor, councillors, members of Hastings County Planning Department, and neighbors. Thank you for this opportunity to speak this evening regarding our application to rezone Marmora Retreat to an RRC designation. As the owner-operator of Marmora Retreat, I've had the privilege of watching this beautiful land bring peace and joy to over hundreds of visitors in the past 5 years. More importantly, I've seen it contribute directly to the economic vitality of our community, creating work, driving tourism, and supporting the backbone of this region, our small business owners. Why this rezoning matters for Marmora and the surrounding region: we are at a critical moment for rural Ontario. Many surrounding towns are losing their small businesses, with storefronts closing and families relocating due to lack of opportunities. This is deeply impacting the social and economic fabric of rural communities all around us. Marmora is an exception. Our small business communities remain resilient and active, but we must keep pushing forward to protect that strength. Marmora Retreat is part of that solution. Driving foot traffic, bringing in tourism dollars, and creating meaningful connections between guests and the local economy. This rezoning is not just about one business, it's about supporting the long-term revitalization of Marmora Lake and standing as an example of what's possible when a rural community invests in thoughtful, sustainable growth. What are the direct economic contributions that Marmora Retreat gives? Local job creation. We currently employ and contract a range of local workers, cleaners, tradespeople, event professionals, and wellness facilitators. With this rezoning, we'll be able to bring in even more skilled contractors and service providers from the area. Revenue for local businesses. We actively purchase goods and services from local suppliers, food from local producers, trades for repairs and maintenance, and wellness services for guest programming. Increased tax revenue. With our growing occupancy rates, Marmora Retreat contributes meaningful to local tax base. This helps fund the services, infrastructure, and amenities that benefit all residents. Supporting tourism-driven growth. Our guests do shop at local stores. They do dine at local restaurants. They do visit neighboring attractions, and they do book with nearby guides and wellness providers. This creates a network of interconnected economic activity where the benefits of one successful business ripples outwards to others. Importantly, our guests stay multiple nights and tend to return. They bring not only tourism dollars, but also organic marketing that helps establish Marmora Lake as a destination of choice for rural retreat seekers. Driving agritourism and sustainable rural development. Marmora Retreat is rooted in the land. Our guests enjoy alpaca interactions and feeding, organic gardening, nature walks around the property, and stargazing, as well as, of course, health and wellness retreats immersed in natural surroundings. We focus on preserving natural landscapes and promoting environmental stewardship. This is not development for the sake of just profit. It is curated, low impact, and in harmony with the environment. And of course, addressing my neighbors with concerns of noise and wildlife. I hear your concerns and respect would like to give a reply to that. The noise control, first, before saying there's a lot of hearsay and rumors and about kind of whether I was providing speakers or I did host a virtual Q&A a couple weekends ago where I invited all of you to attend that and to air out any of these rumors and hearsay. And thank you for those of you that attended. I do appreciate that. And there was an opportunity to kind of ask me more questions and put things to rest instead of kind of, speculation. Marmora Retreat does allow micro weddings and small private gatherings, but we approach these with a focus on respect for both the land and the community around us. For any outdoor music, we provide the speaker system. This allows us to strictly control volume levels and ensure nothing gets out of hand. We do not allow live bands or DJs, and we adhere without exception to the municipal bylaw cutoff time for music in the evenings, just like the rest of our neighbors. Our security cameras monitor sound and guest activity, and our property manager lives less than 5 minutes away. My property manager is an extension of me and myself, ready to respond immediately if any issues arise. Furthermore, the closest neighbor to the farmhouse is myself. The 2 additional domes that I'm proposing, I'm the closest neighbor to myself. I'm the one that gets hurt and impacted as well, just as the neighbors do. Our guests value peace and tranquility above all else, just like we do. The wildlife protection. We are actively rewilding parts of our land, planting native species and supporting biodiversity. Guests are educated on how to observe wildlife respectfully and not interfere with it. There was a comment by one of the neighbors that there's, wild turkey and deer roaming the land. Well, yes, that's true. There is no motorized vehicle like jet skis or ski doos or boats or anything. It's watercraft, it's kayak canoes. That's it. Guests are educated on how to observe wildlife respectfully, not interfere with it. We believe more human eyes on the land, when guided by conservation values, actually supports the health and protection of our ecosystem. The bigger picture and long-term sustainable growth. We operate year-round, supporting businesses even during the low tourism months, which not other small businesses do. We attract high-value, respectful visitors seeking nature, not nightlife. How we position ourselves and the marketing, as you can see on the website and Instagram, it's not boom, boom, boom. It's not that. It's quiet, it's nature, it's preservation, it's disconnect to reconnect to yourself, to your loved one, to your family. That's what we support and advocate. We help increase local property values by showcasing the region's beauty and potential. Lastly, getting there, a call for continued revitalization. Let's keep the momentum moving forward. Let's support the hardworking small businesses that are pouring everything they have into our community. Let's choose revitalization and progress. And let's keep Marmora Lake a place where rural living thrives economically, environmentally, and culturally. Finally, I respectfully ask Council and the Planning Department to please approve the RRC rezoning designation for Marmora Retreat. We're building something beautiful here in this community, something responsible and meaningful that serves both visitors and the local community. With your support, we continue to be a proud contributor to the economic health and rural charm of Marmora Lake. Thank you for your time and for your care and attention to this moment.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this zoning?
Are you allowed to use the bottle?
No, no, sorry. So there's no one else that wishes to come forward and speak? Okay, well, thank you very much, all of you, for and against. That's great. So now we're to the zoning amendment. The bylaw number 2025-24P. The legal description, registered comp plan 2131 part lot 109. Reference plan 21R6908 part 1. Oops, sorry. And the bylaw 2025-24P would rezone the entirety of the property from the marginal agricultural zone to the resort recreational commercial exception number 5 zone to permit the uses that we read before. Do we have anything further, Kristen, in terms of comments? Go ahead, Emily.
Sure. Through you, Madam Chair, just to point out, we did recommend an amendment to the bylaw just to specify that there's going to be three housekeeping cottages, and just an amendment that accessory buildings or uses permitted to the above uses is permitted. That's standard in all bylaws. Accessory uses are things like sheds and things that support the standard and proper use of the property.
Thank you. Any other, Kristen, you have no other comments? No? John, no comments? Okay. So the recommendation is that the County of Hastings Planning Staff report dated March 21st, 2025 regarding rezoning of lands legally described as registered comp plan 2131 part lot 109, reference plan 21R6908 part 1, be received, and that the zoning bylaw amendment 2025-24 regarding the rezoning of lands legally described as registered comp plan 2131 part lot 109, registered plan 21R6908 part 1 be recommended for council adoption. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please, to put that on the floor? Eric?
I'll move to put it on the floor.
Jane, you're second.
I second it to put it on the floor.
Thank you. Okay, I'll open it up for questions or comments from council. Eric?
Sure, I have a list here, so this may take a minute or two. So the first question is whether Emily or John, you'd like to answer this. Can you just explain the process so the public is aware of generally what the process is when a property owner wants to come forward with a rezone?
Go ahead, Emily.
Of course, Madam Chair. So generally the applicant pre-consults with planning staff and municipal staff to kind of review the process from their side. The applicant applies through our cloud permit system. They upload all their documents. So site plan and their application is not a cloud permit, and staff taking that information, and we prepare a notice and a key map. The key map just generally shows the general location of the property in a high level form. And the draft bylaw is prepared for council's consideration. Members of the public are circulated and notices put on the website. That has to happen at least 20 days before the meeting occurs. Members of the public, as we know, are allowed to write in, and allowed to write to myself or Kristen, and we would answer their questions as they came up. And presently we're at the public meeting, and just remind council that you have 3 options before you with this bylaw. You can either approve it, deny it, or defer it to a later date after reviewing comments.
Thanks, Emily.
And Emily, for clarification, it is your recommendation to approve this, correct?
Currently, yes, that's my recommendation.
Okay. And can you speak to how this meets the provincial policy statement as well as Hastings County official plan as per your staff report?
Of course. So you do have a detailed report in front of you. So rural areas and municipalities are regulated by 2 sections. So section 2.5 and 2.6. And in my detailed report, I do review how a recreational use does meet these standards and civic standards of the bylaw. It's also just, so there is, it probably is near the Crow River and Sigma Valley land, as I mentioned. However, Crow Valley Conservation Authority has not indicated any concerns. The applicant has provided a stormwater management plan, and the proposed housekeeping cottages are in already disturbed field, so there's little impact to environment is anticipated. In terms of the Hastings County official plan, the property is part of the rural/waterfront designation, and that does permit commercial and tourism development related uses related to the rural economy, such as a resort and recreational use. I should note that this application, as I mentioned before, is also going to be subject to site plan control, which is part of the official plan. And council should generally be satisfied that things like the road and the area itself can support this additional development. I do know that Kristen has asked the roads department for comment. I don't know if we received written comment yet. I do know there's been oral comments. And sorry, just reading my report quickly. Remind myself of all the information here. And the MDS calculation has been performed, and there is no conflict in that way either in terms of the official plan. And there is some environmental protection area on the property as well, and that's the wetlands that Crow Valley has identified. No development is proposed around this area. So overall, the official plan and PPS would be met.
Okay, thank you. Can you speak to, in your report, the definition of site-specific zoning? And then as well get on, if this rezone happens, if the property owner wants to put additional structures or a different type of structure, what does that process look like?
Of course. So a site-specific rezoning moves a bit closer. A site-specific rezoning is a zoning that is, as its title implies, specific to the property. So instead of permitting a general resort recreational commercial zone, which permits a variety of uses, such as marina, such as not necessarily unlimited, but larger number of housekeeping cottages and other uses, we've tailored the nature of the bylaw to be exactly what the applicant has asked for. So it is a limiting bylaw. It doesn't necessarily expand permitted uses beyond what's currently on the property. So that is what it means by site specific. So it's tailored exactly to what the applicant is looking to do. If the applicant was to expand those uses beyond what's presently in the bylaw right now, they would need to apply for another rezoning. So this process would happen again. Public would have the opportunity to comment at that time when that bylaw is received. So we can't base our comments on what might happen in the future because we simply do not know what the applicant intends to do. So we have to base it off of the application we have before us.
But they would have to come back with another application should that be their intent in the future, or potentially a different property owner.
That is correct. So if the property owner or future owner decides to change the uses of the property or expand the number of cottages, for example, they would have to apply for both a rezoning and update that site plan if this was approved.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair to municipal staff, are you aware of any bylaw complaints related to this property currently on record?
Thank you. That was awkward. Through your chair to Councillor Dow. I did speak to Rick Deering, who's the bylaw enforcement officer. He does not have any complaints, has not received any complaints with respect to the specific property. So the answer would be no on that.
Okay, and the existing dome that exists, are you aware of the process followed for construction of that dome? Was there a permit taken out to construct that dome?
It is my understanding that there was a permit taken out to do that. I have spoken with BISB and the chief building official, Richard Cook, on that. He said with respect to anything that's on site, whether it's there or considered to be there, through this process and through the site plan control, building permits to follow, that anything that was there, the whole property would be looked at in terms of were there any outstanding permits, which there are not, and also with the idea that anything that would be built, it would be done based on the building code. The only comment there is that if there was a concern with respect to water taking, water and septic all would fall under their purview. But if there was a concern where too much water was being drawn, like over 10,000 liters, then that would involve Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, because a permit to take water would be an approval required from that provincial ministry. But otherwise, everything else would follow that process and all be done. And to piggyback perhaps on what Emily was saying, that from a planning perspective, the official plan supports it. The zoning bylaw, if it's passed, would be specific to the site plan control is what would allow some notion of there's control on the site. So it wouldn't be that this is free for all or generally. The site plan control very specifically puts certain uses on the property, making sure there's being cognizant of separation distances and making sure that that is all there, transparent and provided on the site.
Okay, thank you. Can you share your consult with our roads manager just in terms of traffic study, traffic flow, condition of the road as it exists now?
Through the chair to Councillor Dow, I was the one who had a conversation with Dylan Adams, Manager of Transportation Services. He assured me that Marble Point is one of our busiest roads as it is, and therefore it's built to withstand that traffic. He had no concerns about the additional traffic that these changes may bring about. He feels the road is more than capable of handling them. He did provide me with traffic counts. I don't know if that means anything to anybody. And he said that because it's as busy as it is, there are already turning lanes on and off of Highway 7 to facilitate traffic getting on and off of Marble Point. He said the one thing that he would require is to bring that entrance up to commercial standards, as it would be a commercial zone, and also just to alleviate any sort of issues that there may be. So that would involve widening the current entrance into the retreat and also paving it up to the road.
Okay, thank you. A couple last questions here. Can you confirm that the recreational commercial tax rate here in Marmot Lake is higher than marginal agricultural?
So I'll take a swing at that through Madam Chair. So we don't actually calculate the tax rate as a municipality. That's actually an organization called MPAC. So MPAC does base that off of improvements. So my understanding, and I could always reach out to my colleagues at MPAC for complete insurance, but commercial properties are taxed higher than a residential property, which is likely what the property is considered now and assessed as. And any improvements made to a property does increase tax rate, which I'm sure residents know if they add a pool to your property, that does increase your tax rate. But ultimately, staff aren't the ones calculating that, but I can reach out to my colleagues to confirm that for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Emily. John?
So through your chair to Councillor Dow, I can confirm that it is higher, absolutely. And again, piggyback on what Emily said, all of those things are done through MPAC, but I can absolutely assure you that that rate is fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
My apologies. My apologies. What I can say is the commercial rate is higher than residential, certainly higher than agricultural, which would be at a discount. It is Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, which all of us unfortunately are aware of, is the one that will do that. Any improvements, and certainly the significant improvements that are being proposed, if approved by council, would affect that commercial rate. Apologies for that.
And then my last question, just for information, currently we do not have any Airbnb licensing, business license, or Airbnb specific bylaws. That enforcement is done through our existing bylaws and our bylaw officer. Is that correct?
Through your chair to Councillor Dow, yes, I can confirm that. We as a jurisdiction and you as a council, before my time, but certainly looked at this issue with the idea of licensing. That's not something that council had an appetite for. The bureaucracy, the paperwork, all the resourcing was too significant. So it isn't something that we license, but that we are aware there are situations of short-term rentals. But that said, we do not license them or provide a license.
So should any neighboring residents have an issue, the bylaw officer would be their point of contact?
Through your chair to Councillor Dow, absolutely. I apologize if I missed that in the last answer.
Any other questions? Jane?
I would just like a quick clarification, and I don't know really if this will go anywhere, but it's more from my head. There were comments made that that site is currently operating as a business without, I guess, the proper licensing.
because we don't have any Airbnb licensing and whatnot, has there been the business operation without the proper procedures within the municipality?
Go ahead. Emily, do you want to respond to that?
Through you, Madam Chair. So I understand there might have been business operating. However, with planning applications, specifically planning applications, we treat all planning applications like nothing's ever been built. So even if someone retroactively needs to get, for example, a minor variance, our next meeting, we treat it as a structure that doesn't exist currently, and they have to comply with bylaws and update the bylaws where possible. So for planning purposes, whether the business is currently running doesn't really impact whether we support the bylaw or not. We treat it like hasn't happened. And I should note that zoning cannot regulate rentals because that is against the Human Rights Act. So in terms of the Airbnb, that would be, as John said, through a licensing program.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John.
If I may, through your chair to Councillor Lakatos, in terms of business licensing, we do not do business licensing. But again, under the planning system, the idea of any of these applications, even if some of these uses were something that wasn't permitted or was an extension of what wasn't allowed, this planning process before council is to legalize not only anything that was there, but make sure everything is up to building code. That's why the inspections, permits, approvals are all provided. And then if council were to approve further or expanded uses, that's what this process is for.
Okay, and then one final question. And I guess it's just to address that there have been comments as well about additional sewage in that. From what I'm reading and my comprehension, and just so as everybody else understands, any concerns of that have been addressed in this report, correct?
So through you, Madam Chair. So the applicant is proposing to service the domes with an existing well on the property and a built septic for the domes. So that hasn't been built yet. That falls under the building code though. So it will be falling, and Cove Valley Conservation Authority also would issue a permit potentially depending on location, but that absolutely falls under the building code, and that those domes will be serviced with that septic as per the Ontario bylaws.
So through your chair to Councillor Lakatos, again, under the building code and also under approvals for Part 8, which is septic and sewer, all of that is something that would be approved by the BISB and make sure that it follows provincial standards, provincial law. It is absolutely a concern that if any of these things were to fail, to be a concern from an environmental standpoint, which is why the approvals are there and granted through that approval process, so that even if the system fails, there are backups to that. So that's a top concern. And again, that will be run through BISB and make sure that those approvals are in place. Cove Valley Conservation Authority as well will be included if there are any permits required. The intention there is to make sure there are buffers to the environmental and that there's nothing, whether it's waste or other uses or anything like that, would compromise the natural heritage.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ron?
Yes, thank you. I know this isn't on the lake, it's on the river, but I'm just wondering, with 100 people, how does that affect the lake capacity study? If anybody's considered that, or is that a consideration because it's the river? I just was wondering.
Emily?
So the Madam Chair, so the capacity of the lake is more affected more by residential development, like septics is the biggest thing. So when you talk about capacity, we're talking about nutrient loading that comes from phosphorus and nitrogen especially. So with the proposal, as I understand it, is an outdoor venue. The applicant is proposing that any large parties over 25 people, the guests would be providing those temporary sanitation services, potties, and those will be removed at the site and the day. So there wouldn't be an anticipated additional loading beyond the proposed septic for servicing the domes. So each dome is 1 bedroom, so it's equivalent of a 3-bedroom house approximately. So, and again, that goes through the Ontario Building Code and your building inspectors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Okay, being none, thank you. We have a recommendation on the, you want me to read it again, or has everybody got it in front of them here? You want me to read it again? Okay. That the County of Hastings Planning Staff Report dated March 21st, 2025 regarding rezoning of lands legally described as registered comp plan 2131 part lot 109, registered plan 21R6908 part PT Part 1 be received, and that the zoning bylaw amendment 2025-24P regarding the rezoning of lands legally described as registered comp plan 2131 part lot 109, registered plan 21R6908 part PT Part 1 be recommended for council adoption. And we have a mover and a seconder. Are there any further comments or questions? I'll call all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Emily. Planning reports. We have severance applications and reports, consent files, B154/24 and B155/24, Pangamong Lake, part of lots 21 to 24, concession 2, parts 1 to 3 on registered plan 21R-26367, Marmor and Lake. And the recommendation is that the planning committee receive and approve the planning staff report revised on March 24th, 2025, that cost to the value of $2,400 cash in lieu of parkland be paid under section 33(8) of the act, that all taxes be paid in full prior to granting consent, and that the severed and retained lands be rezoned from limited service residential 2 holding to limited service residential X. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Ron and Eric, any discussions on that consent file? Or being none, all in favor? That's carried. Consent file B156/24, 55 Bailey Road, lots 7 and 8, concession 6, part 3 on registered plan 21R-26354 of part 1 on registered plan 21R-16572. And the recommendation is that the planning committee receive and approve the planning staff report dated March the 4th, 2025, that costs to the value of $1,200 cash in lieu of parkland be paid under section 33(8) of the act, that all taxes be paid in full prior to granting consent, that safe site entrance be approved on the proposed severed lands, including removal of brush along sight lines as directed by the manager of transportation services, that road widening is requested for the entire frontage of the severed and retained lands as deemed necessary by the manager of transportation services, and that the severed lands be rezoned from marginal agricultural and rural residential to rural residential. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that one, please? Ron and Mike, any discussion, comments, or questions on that consent file? All in favor? That's carried. Bylaw number 2025-24, zoning amendment for 354 Marble Point Road, being a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 2003-11 as amended. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that bylaw, please? Eric, second Mike. Any further discussion on that bylaw? Being none, all in favor? That's carried. Need a confirming bylaw to, or a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the planning meeting of council held on the first day of April 2025. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Eric, second Mike. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Need a motion to adjourn, Ron.
Yep.
Second. Jane. All in favor? That's carried. We're officially adjourned at the planning meeting. So I guess we're going to go right into the Committee of Adjustment. Kristen? Kristen, I have a problem. Can't find the agenda for the Committee of Adjustment. I've probably confused it here with. Thanks, John. Okay. So are we ready to start? Okay, thank you. So I'll call to order the Committee of Adjustment meeting for Tuesday, April the 1st, 2025, and we're being streamed live. Do we need to do the Atlantic acknowledgement for this one? Probably not. So I'll call the meeting to order at 6:30. First of all, I need a motion to approve the agenda for the Municipality of Marmor Lake Committee of Adjustment meeting for Tuesday, April the 1st, 2025. And I have a mover and a seconder, Jane and Eric. Any discussion on that agenda? All in favor? That's carried. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Being none. Need a motion that the foregoing minutes of the Municipality of Marmor Lake Committee of Adjustment meeting held Tuesday, March the 4th, 2025 be approved. I have a mover and a seconder, Ron and Mike. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor? That's carried. Today we're dealing with the application of minor variance for 380 DeLaurel Road, Part Lot 9, Concession 8, Municipality of Marmor Lake. And the purpose is the applicant has requested relief from the following policies from the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw number 2003-11. Section 5.25.2, any accessory building which is not part of the main building shall be erected to the rear of the projected front or exterior side wall of the main building where accessory buildings are located behind the main buildings. They shall be located in accordance with the provisions of that particular zone. The proposed accessory building is to be located in front of the principal structure. Section 5.25.5, an accessory building shall not be built closer to any lot line than the minimum distance required by this bylaw, except that common semi-detached garages may be erected on a mutual side lot line. The proposed accessory building will be 16 meters from the front lot line, whereas section 7.3A3 requires a minimum of 20 meters. Section 7.3B4, accessory building height maximum shall be 4.5 meters and 5.4 meters is proposed. This is the time set aside to permit anyone who requested to speak in favor of or in opposition to the minor variance application. Public input will be received by the Committee of Adjustment. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Municipality of Marmor Lake within 20 days of the bylaw passing, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Committee of Adjustment to the Ontario Municipal Board. And the recommendation is that the Hastings County response dated March 24th, 2025, and the Quinte Conservation Authority comments dated March 24th, 2025 be received. And I have a mover and a seconder, please. Eric and second Jane. Any discussion on this consent? Being none, all in favor? That's carried. So the minor variance 2025-2, the recommendation that the minor variance application in the 2025-2 for lands located at 380 DeLaurel Road, Marmor Lake, legally described as Part Lot 9, Concession 8, Municipality of Marmor Lake, to permit a garage located in a separate building than the principal building located in front of the principal structure, 16 meters from the front lot line, and that has a height of 5.4 meters be approved. And that the Committee of Adjustment is satisfied that the application meets the 4 tests of minor variance. The variance is desirable as it is an appropriate use for the property and will have limited impact on surrounding landowners. The impact of the variance can be considered minor, as the difference in height and front yard setback are relatively minimal, and there will still be a clear relationship between the garage and the principal building. The application is within the residential waterfront designation of the official plan, which permits residential uses and related accessory buildings. Likewise, the intent of the zoning bylaw in regulating the height of the accessory buildings is to prevent accessory buildings from appearing to be insubordinate from the principal building. Similarly, preventing accessory buildings from being closer to the road than the principal building can be interpreted as maintaining the separation between the principal and accessory building, and the minimum front yard setback of 20 meters can be interpreted as maintaining the separation between the private and public realm. The intent of the zoning bylaw will be met as the garage is designated as a garage and is an obvious accessory to the principal building, and the separation between the public and private realms is maintained as there is a large separation between the accessory building and the road surface with no sidewalks in the area. So can I get a mover and a seconder, Ron and Mike? Any questions or comments on that consent? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Need a motion to adjourn, Ron. Second? Jane, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Can we take just a